We're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar, Leading the Way, Championing AI in Education. We're excited to share with you more information about what that looks like across our schools and our classrooms in North Carolina and beyond. I know that in the chat, you should have received the link to our slide deck today. There's also a link there as well to our resource Wakelet. You're going to find that to be a really valuable resource for you as we work through our webinar session this afternoon. We have a lot of awesome examples from your peers who are using AI in their roles. And so feel free to use the links that will be placed in the chat, or follow along by checking out that Wakelet to explore those materials and resources. So you're going to want to be an active participant today. And of course, we record all of these webinars and they are available on our webinar website. So you'll be able to access all of the recordings and materials there as well. I have worked with a fabulous group of people to put together this webinar series. I am Emma Broughton. I'm the Director of Digital Learning here at the Friday Institute. And you'll see there on the screen, Jackie Stevens and Brittany Miller, who were my co-partners in designing and developing this specific session. Kim Farnsworth will be here today as support, and you'll see her in the chat. And then Russell Strand-Poole and Amy Walter have also been designers and collaborators on this project. It's been a really great series for us as we've dug into what AI in your space and in education can look like. So thank you for being a part of it as you've joined us today, and maybe for some of our other sessions as well. We're here at the Friday Institute, which is part of the College of Ed at NC State. And our work really is important in many ways as it looks at what research and policy and practice can do when they come together. One of the fabulous things about our job is thinking about all of the impacts in education, and especially on students as we work with different topics and emerging technologies and things across the state and beyond. And so the Friday Institute here is fortunate to be able to provide this webinar series this afternoon. And so we have been really grateful for the opportunity to share some of our learning and expertise with you around AI in education, and hope that you've benefited from that as well. One of the things that we'll put into the link here is an opportunity for you to be a part of AI research. This is, of course, an optional survey for you to share some of your perspective as an educator. If you've already completed this survey for us, no need to do that again. But if not, we would love for you to take a couple of minutes to complete that so that we can be better informed and also better understand where we are in education when it comes to AI and where we can go with it as well. This session specifically, as I mentioned, is part of a series. There are 4 parts that we have been able to host over the past couple of months. And so if we go on to the next slide, thanks, Jackie. We are here where we're talking about adoption and advocacy when it comes to AI. And so this is really situated around how do we start with stepping into AI by building our awareness and interest, evaluating AI for our use as educators, trying AI with our students, and then moving into a space where we have it fully adopted and integrated and become those advocates for AI. Overall, our goal for this whole series has been around building people's fluency in AI. How do we foster that? And along the way, it's thinking about empowering educators that will ultimately transform that teaching and learning as we work through all of the content and materials and growth opportunities and exploration throughout this series. It's situated, as you might have seen, around our stages of adoption, from awareness all the way up to that advocacy piece. And so we are here on the right side of that graphic. Oftentimes when we think about getting to adoption and advocacy, when we start with awareness and interest, we're appealing to our curiosity, we're selecting the right tool as we move into evaluation, we're trying that out in our trial stage, and really here is kind of that capstone where we're consistently integrating and sharing our successes. That's how we've designed and structured our webinar series, and so we're delighted to be at this stage here with you all, where we get to showcase and share those folks across the state who have adopted and who are now advocating and leading with AI in their space. And so when you think about what that fully looks like, AI fluency for us is how we understand and how we apply and how we adapt those technologies in our classrooms. It really can be different based upon your role and what that can look like. For us, we wanted to think about the understanding, the application, and the adaptation for our North Carolina educators. And part of being flexible and being responsive to what they needed to build their AI fluency was for a self-assessment survey to be conducted over the past 4 months to gather some data about what that looked like and how we could make sure this webinar series really aligned and was meeting what you folks needed in the field related to AI. So if we take a look at some of the data here, we'll see that there's a certain level of awareness that has been growing over the past 4 months. When we first started this survey and started these sessions, that data was further to the left. And so were still building their awareness. And we see it as a great accomplishment to understand and know that those bar charts, that piece there really is creeping further to the right, where folks can say that they strongly agree that there is a presence and relevance in education for AI. They better understand that AI fluency, and they know there are AI resources available for them. And then when we look at some more data on this next slide, thanks, Jackie. Do you currently have a systematic approach to evaluate AI in your content standards or AI in pedagogy and teaching strategies, those benefits and concerns regarding AI, and even the effectiveness of AI integration? You see that we still solidly are in the no category when it comes to having a systematic approach to evaluate AI, but progress here is that we're seeing a lot more people who are saying they are growing in that direction. So while we aren't completely on the left side of that chart where everyone can say resoundingly, yes, we have that in place, we know that people are becoming more aware. They're growing in that direction. And that definitely is something that we are excited about seeing and about supporting as well. And then finally, that last piece of data that's important for us to think about is how you folks may be incorporating those AI elements into your practice. I think this is a huge celebration for us as we look at that first row, where we see that solidly people are saying yes. Those folks who are taking that survey are saying we are doing this, or we are growing in that direction. And that was not the case when we started in session one back in November. So to see that change has been really phenomenal for us and exciting for us as well. Folks are adapting their materials, they're communicating the benefits, and that's important for us to see that folks are growing in that direction, because that means you're also adopting and you're advocating as you will there as too. So something to celebrate is your own growth and what that has looked like over the past 4 months as you've joined us in this webinar series. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Brittany Miller, who will get us started specifically for this session. Again, important that you'll follow along in the chat to access those links to materials and resources, or we'll have that Wakelet link there for you to also access there. So thanks so much, Brittany. Go ahead and get us started with our session materials.
Absolutely. We are so excited to be engaging with you. We are in session 4, leading the way. So this session is really about exploring how to lead the way with AI fluency and help others through the adoption process, as well as helping ourselves as we continue to learn and move through that adoption process. We were very intentional in building today's session around learning from our peers through their examples and their leadership in schools and classrooms. So throughout this session, we're going to hopefully take some inspiration from awesome examples that we have collected and are going to be sharing today, and really learning about how do we advocate and model the way for our AI. Today's objectives are really showcasing, again, experience and expertise and learning from others. So we're going to, again, looking at all of those examples, those amazing examples that we have collected. And we're going to learn and explore a little bit about how we advocate for AI and take our role as a digital leader. And then, of course, we're going to continue your journey with AI fluency. And hopefully you will also get some new ideas on how you might be able to use AI in your classroom. As we move that through that adoption process, again, Emma gave us a wonderful review in just a moment, but we kind of want to dig in a little bit deeper with this one. We are, again, kind of focused on and have moved through adoption. We're looking at that last bubble, that advocacy, and looking at what does that mean for educators and leaders and how to be ready to share ideas and experiences and really advocate for AI in education, both with, for, and by students. So we wanted to break this down a little bit more and what this looks like for each session. Jackie, if you could do next slide. We're going to look at what key questions are associated with each of these levels. And so as you or as others who you may support or know, colleagues who have worked through that adoption process, they might be asking key questions, or this may be key questions that you need to make sure are addressed as people work through this adoption process. The way that I look at these questions is it helps me work through this adoption process, but it also helps me know what questions to answer as I'm helping others move through that adoption process. So the first level, that awareness, what is this? The very basic, they need to know, what is AI? Uh, Everybody keeps talking about it, but they may have very little awareness about what it is and how it works. The next one is, why is it important? How is it going to impact my teaching? The next, evaluation, can I do this? Is this something that is useful? And so taking a look at starting to apply. So now that I know what it is, I know why, I have my value. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And now that I've tried and I've gone through the trial, how do I improve it? So in moving into that space is, all right, what am I going to try with my kids? What am I going to learn from this? And then adoption is, how do I know that I do this? Kind of taking a measurement of, this was the impact of that lesson. I'm at the adoption. I'm willing to do this. I'm going to go further. And then the last piece, that advocacy, is, how do I lead? Once I'm at that end piece, is, how do I bring others alongside me? Because I've gone through this process. I am at the advocacy level. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm still trialing and still adopting. That doesn't mean that we are not constantly moving through the different levels. But once I've reached advocacy, how do I pull others and teach others and model for others how to use this tool? And so that's a different way of looking at the adoption process. And it kind of gives a lens of, again, you can use this for yourself or for those you serve. How do I help others through that adoption process as well? Let's showcase for a moment those who have worked through the trial phase and adopted AI into their classroom practice. First, we're going to be hearing from Kimberly Jones on how AI helps her achieve her student-centered approach to teaching. And so I'm going to let her speak real quick and we will take
If
it.
kids have access to this kind of technology that's been vetted, that's well sourced, and they've been trained on responsible use, they become far more empowered in their own education. And that's really exciting as a teacher. Like, I want my kids to trust me, but I don't want to be the sage on the stage. I don't want to be the start and the end of all their knowledge. But if I empower them with tools where they can go out and make sense of the world, and they learn how to ask better questions, they're going to bring that new learning into my class, and everybody benefits from it. But it gets to be personalized in a way that meets their really specific needs in a way that perhaps I can't as a classroom teacher. And that's exciting.
Is exciting. And it's wonderful to be learning with our students, right? As we experiment, as we try new things, learn with our kids. The things that they're exploring and experiencing can help inform what we're doing. Because our students sometimes have wonderful ideas on how to use these AI tools or other tools in our classroom. And this is another thing that I really want to highlight that she pointed out, is it's important to do our due diligence and ensure that AI students or students who are using AI are using quality resources, and to work through that MAZE acronym. Now, we have revisited the MAZE acronym through the entire webinar series, so this might be a bit of a review, but we think that it's important to tie back. When we're using AI for, with, and by students, we need to make sure to analyze that the AI resource is appropriate for data privacy. We want to make sure that it has accurate information. We want to make sure that we zero in on that bias and that it is providing students a honest perspective, and we want to utilize the information as well as experience to evaluate the value. So we take, our role as a teacher and look at, was this a value add to my teaching? Was this a value add to my students' learning? So we want to always keep in mind that maze, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that she talked about that a little bit, but we wanted to break that down and bring back to our MAZE acronym to make sure that when we are using those AI tools with students, it is important that we are helping them also navigate the maze, that we are teaching them the tools to monitor data privacy, to assess for accuracy, and to zero on bias themselves so that they're also informed users of AI. We also want to expand on that maze lens, and we always bring it back to the AI Bill of Rights because we feel like that is a very important component and something that we always need to keep in mind when we are using AI. And this Bill of Rights addresses issues relevant to identifying and evaluating AI output for ethical issues. This is a quick snapshot. We visited this every webinar as well about those 5 principles, but it's always important to keep those in mind in the context of education. So this marries very nicely with our MAZE acronym. But while we're digging in, we're now going to be looking in just a moment to many different student examples of students using AI for, with, and by. And I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, who's going to walk us through some amazing leadership and models of using AI for, with, and by students. So I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, who's going to dig in with us.
Thanks, Brittany. So we kind of put an all call out and asked educators far and wide, share what you're doing. What does this look like for you right now in your unique learning environments, in the context of the students you work with or the staff that you're supporting? And we really lucked out with some amazing examples that we're going to highlight for you here. And overall, we wanted some examples of really showing how are you using AI with your learners, with your students, and what does that look like? So, our first example comes from Dr. Sarah Burris, and we're so excited to share some of the ways that she and others have been engaging students and helping them navigate AI use. And Sarah is a postdoctoral research um, in AI ethics and education. And she is part of Engage AI Institute out of Vanderbilt University. And Engage AI Institute conducts research on narrative centered learning technologies, which really embody conversational agents and multimodal learning analytics to create deeply engaging, collaborative, story based learning experiences. Helping engage AI, actually, this institute to lead this work also includes Indiana University, Digital Promise, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and North Carolina State University. So her example really ties into the AI Bill of Rights and introducing that Bill of Rights to young people. What did they think about it? These were written by a bunch of grown-ups, right? Telling us this is what AI is and how we need to use it. But what do kids think? And in June of 2023, they gathered 50 high school students to participate in a week-long AI forum as part of their environment in a science enrichment program. And one of the forum days was designated to learning about then redesigning around the blueprint. And Sarah and her team at Engage AI Institutes asked students to think about how the current blueprint document might be applicable to their own lives, and if and how it might miss some things about their experience as young people and as students. So, with design support from a research partner, students created their own posters, and you can see some examples here featuring their interpretations of these principles from that blueprint. Students discussed how AI was present in their daily lives and in their school. They noted in particular ways that the school uses surveillance software, frequently without asking students permission or offering explanations of how and where the technology or that student data was being used. And despite the blueprint's focus on rights linked to real world harms, the students they worked with were consistently enthusiastic about their futures with AI and how it could serve them as learners and citizens. So, if you're interested in learning more about this experience that Sarah had with these students and learning more about this project, there's a link in the chat to highlight a little bit more. Our next example is from Mike Renee, and Mike is a maker educator and esports coach at Noble Academy in Greensboro, North Carolina. He's also the founder of Triad Youth Makers. And Mike is really passionate about creating innovative learning experiences for his learners. He has an extensive knowledge of and expertise in implementing instructional technology, game-based learning and maker education in both formal and informal learning spaces. And this includes K-12 and higher education classrooms, maker spaces, libraries, and online learning environments. So he was very excited to share with us his lesson example that he has been using with elementary ed students. So he's combined AI and computer science coding activities in a lesson entitled Fooled. But I'll let Mike unpack that.
Example is called Fooled, and it's using machine learning for kids, which is a great website out of the UK, I believe. And what it allows students to do is see, it kind of gives you the whole picture. You see a model being trained, or you get to train the model yourself, and then you get to have the model trained, and then all in real time, and then you get to see some code that's been pre-written for you to display the results of what the model has learned or hasn't learned in the case of Fooled. So in Fooled, basically what happens is the model is being poorly trained to identify a piece of fruit. So the activity will have you go through the training process where you're going to train it with some kind of bad data on purpose at first, and then you're going to go through it again and give it some better data and retrain it and see the results. So I like this because even though there's code involved, it's using Scratch and the algorithm is already pre-made for you. So really all you have to do is do a few minor changes. The worksheet that comes with the program tells you how to do everything step by step. The code is drag and drop, so there's no typing. And also, I like it that you see the whole picture. So you see from training to output how machine learning and AI work. So I can't recommend this particular activity enough. I would say it's good for do some of the other activities on machine learning for kids first, so students get used to how kind of their process works, and see examples of how training can go well. But once they've kind of gotten that idea, seeing how training could go bad, arguably is just as important, because as we know, AI can have hallucinations and kind of give us bad data, right? So it's a classic example of garbage in, garbage out. So I can't recommend this one enough, and also pretty much anything from machine learning for kids.
So some great, feedback from Mike, and teaching our young students early on, AI isn't perfect. We need to have the critical thinking skills, and we need to unpack, when it's wrong, why is it wrong, and really understanding that. So along the same lines, another example of machine learning from a secondary perspective, we have an example from Amanda Moore. And Amanda Moore is the district innovation coach for the Center Grove Schools located in Johnson Grove, Indiana. And in this example, Amanda has shared with us for this webinar what she's created in collaboration with Indiana University for a larger project called AI Goes Rural. So in Amanda's example of AI use by students, she creates the opportunity for her students to gain insight into how to use AI technologies ethically and responsibly. Students learn the basic process of machine learning through supervised training, and the teacher models how to train to help the class, but the student really paired together to develop their own machine learning program. But I'm going to let Amanda tell you more about that.
In this journey into machine learning lesson, we start our unit by introducing machine learning to our students. And we teach them that in order for something to be machine learning and artificial intelligence, it needs to be able to learn and make decisions. And so we do that by introducing them to a couple tools that already use machine learning that they're familiar with, like Netflix, Siri, and even the face unlock on their phone. Then we use Google Teachable Machine with them and do an image project where we teach the machine how to tell the difference between common shapes like a circle and a square. After that, student groups get to make their own project. A couple student projects that we really liked were a pose project where students taught the machine to tell the difference between a couple popular dance moves, and then an image project where students taught the machine how to tell the difference between a couple colors. After that, we wrap up the lesson by showing how AI is being used for good with Microsoft's current application called Seeing AI, where individuals with vision impairments can use this app to help them navigate or tell the difference between currency or other objects that are in their everyday life.
So there's a little bit of what this entails from Amanda. And if you want to really dig in, you can see the complete lesson in the link that we're sharing in the chat. And what the students came up with was really fascinating, really creative, and it is definitely worth a look. Our next example highlights the work of Teresa Levins, who entered the field of elementary STEM education after 20 years of professional experience as a chemical engineer and in toxicology. So her former STEM career sparked her interest in supporting STEM diversity by impacting formal elementary education experiences. And her example is more of a professional development lens, which she's created for in service and pre service elementary science teachers. But she's broken down the lesson and has got some highlights for us here. So, in her lesson, Exploring AI Search Tools to Enhance Learning in the Elementary Science Classroom, this is designed for educators who are new to AI and using AI with their students directly. And this lesson provides those pre service and in service elementary teachers with a cultural relevant science activity that is really perfect for fourth and fifth graders and incorporates AI search tools. So, the purpose is to build elementary teachers' knowledge about AI and how AI powered searches work so that they can support their students and in turn have their students use tools in the classroom to enhance their learning. And I'll have her share a little bit more here.
This lesson was created to be a professional development unit for pre-service and in-service teachers to explore AI search tools and to understand how to incorporate them in the elementary classroom to enhance learning. It has 3 learning outcomes. One is for the teachers to describe Google algorithm components, to identify additional search tools and applications to incorporate in the classroom, and finally, to explore a culturally relevant science lesson incorporating these tools. The lesson starts by eliciting the teacher's prior knowledge of what makes something AI by providing them with different examples of technology that they sort into categories of AI or not AI. They'll use their rules and reasons for the sorting to start creating their own definition of AI and compare it with an example that was provided by Emerge, but also to provide them with the understanding that AI is a concept without a universally accepted definition. They would also be looking at AI-powered searches, both their purposes, and then exploring the commonly used Google and its algorithm Hummingbird with its components of Rank, Brain, and BERT. And they would then expand into other AI search tools and applications that would be incorporated in this culturally relevant science lesson, Who is a Scientist? That's from UNCG's STEM Teacher Collaborative Initiative and supports reading, writing, and social studies standards in the classroom. Some of the AI activities that would be included to help the teachers begin to think about biases in AI is the Time Magazine Life Tag that has organized over 4 million images from Life Magazine from 1936 to 2000 and has categorized them, and they can be searched by keywords for different ideas and images. And there would also be other AI-powered search tools that would be used to generate these banners as displayed for Kazmikia Corbett in the lower right corner, where the students would be looking up and creating banners for underrepresented STEM professionals to learn about their contributions to science, engineering, and mathematics. This lesson provides the teachers with the opportunity to explore and critically evaluate stereotypical ideas about STEM professionals, how the media influences these ideas, how biases can be present in and perpetuated by AI, and also to identify great appropriate resources to use in their classroom.
So there's a lot there. And if you're interested, she has shared not only templates and links and how to's. We are going to put the lesson plan in the chat, but also the associated slides that you just saw on the screen so you can dig in further and explore. And of course, if you've got any questions, we're here to connect you with these educators as well. In our last example, we have Brunswick County Schools. And like many of you, school districts are trying to figure out, how do we support our educators? How do we advocate and adopt? And how are we going to support our staff, our teachers, and our students? So this example highlights the work of Brunswick County Schools and how they're handling adopting AI. And this district has taken steps to lead the way by crafting use policies and tools for educators and students alike. So the digital learning and school library services shared their district, Brunswick County Schools policy surrounding AI and AI resources in order to understand their value and establish a vision for the use in their district and beyond. Their AI in BCS page highlights the whys, the hows, and the whats of AI acceptable use, along with key terms and simple guides for teachers when they coordinate and consider using AI in the classroom. They wanted to combat fear factors, so they requested for AI detection tools and softwares that kept coming from their teachers. They took steps to encourage fostering more connection and collaboration with students versus relying on an AI tool that could promote assumptions or discrimination. And this resource provides actionable and job embedded ways for their staff and students to use AI. So I'm going to let them kind of share the highlights, and we're going to add the link to this resource in the chat.
AI Use in Brunswick County Schools, a quick web page guide. This web page gives teachers, students, and staff quick guidelines to review in accordance with school board policy about the use of artificial intelligence resources. It recognizes their value and gives suggestions in accordance with those guidelines set forth by the Digital Learning Department and school board policy. If you scroll down, you'll see a quick presentation that was used by digital learning specialists in every school building to give teachers and staff training on the use of AI, primarily relying on generative AI resources. A continued scroll will lead you down to some infographics with best practices. These infographics were designed for teachers and for students as well. The student edition of the infographic gives some insight into additional vocabulary that might be needed to utilize generative AI resources. The teacher edition has information on citations, so teachers and students can feel empowered in using AI resources transparently and responsibly. A continued scroll will show a quick link to NCDPI's Generative AI Implementation Recommendations and Considerations document, as well as a frequently asked questions section. At the very bottom of those frequently asked questions, there's a form live for Brunswick County Schools teachers, students, and staff only, where questions about generative AI use can be shared and added to this frequently asked questions section. Thank you.
And what I just love about this example that they've put together and they've shared is that it's all about transparency and empowerment, by the educators and the students. And if you'd like to check out this resource, definitely go to the link that's in the chat. And all of the resources highlighted and shared, all of these great examples and lessons are located in that Wakelet resource that we shared early on. And we'll drop that chat into the chat as well.
Yep, and we're going to dig in a little bit more about AI advocacy. We have explored wonderful examples for different educators and leaders and doing different things with AI and experimenting, as well as advocating and sharing. Because one huge piece of advocacy is that model piece. One thing that we wanted to highlight, kind of through this excellent quote from Jonathan Rowe, we feel like it is also important to have many different types of stakeholders together in conversation about the future of AI in order to have a collective understanding and vision for how we can best imagine the classrooms of the future. So we tried to capture a lot of different perspectives, and we showed a lot of different examples from people in different roles and different locations to kind of have a more global perspective on different ideas for AI and what you could do with students or what you could do with teachers. But one thing that we also want to highlight is to make sure that you're also including the voice of your teachers or for your students, excuse me, to make sure that you are talking to your students about their perspectives on AI use and what they want to use it for, or how they might be able to see using it to support their education. So as you're working toward advocacy, think about the different perspectives and the different people in the room that you're talking to or talking about, and how it may impact them too. So we're going to talk a little bit more about leading the way. How do you grow towards advocacy in AI once you've adopted? And we have 5 different strategies that we are going to explore for a moment. And this comes from the Leadership Challenge. So this was kind of adopted from them. But uh, one of the ways that you can get started with AI advocacy is setting that example, right? After you've tried something out, model and show it to others. Show them how you're trying and learning through AI, that AI fluency is not something that you just instantly learn, right? That things are going to go perfectly the first time you use it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but you learned along the way. So making sure you set that example and model for others what they should do, enlisting others. And so come along with me, try this lesson with me. If you're trying this in my classroom, here's some ideas on what I'm doing, resources that I'm doing. Can you try and learn it too, so that we can learn together? Are you talking about it in your PLCs if you're a part of a PLC? So how are you bringing others alongside you and kind of enlisting others through their use of AI? And of course, experimenting and taking risks, right? In order to lead and be able to advocate, we will have to have moved ourselves through that adoption model, that we have experimented, we have trialed, we have learned along the way, and to continue to experiment and take risks. So it's not, again, we made it, I've reached advocacy and I'm done, right? We continue to experiment and take risk and set the example and model that we are experimenting and taking risks. We also want to strengthen others. So if someone is nervous about trying an AI lesson, how am I talking to them about it? Am I asking thoughtful questions, giving them ideas on, okay, this is a really good idea. Have you tried this? Or this tool might help solve that problem. Sometimes when I'm coaching teachers, I'll sit with them and they feel hesitant toward using a certain type of technology, such as AI. I try to find the one thing that a tool is going to solve for them. So if they have an issue in a particular area, how can I use AI or show them how AI could solve that problem for them, or work toward a solution, or make something easier for them, right? So strengthening others and helping them understand what the value is. And again, going back to that adoption process, that second stage, what's the value, right? How am I strengthening others and growing alongside them? And of course, recognizing and celebrating where people are in that adoption process and where they're exploring. So recognizing and celebrating successful lessons, also tries, also times when they just dip their toe in the water and they've tried it for the first time and they just signed up for ChatGPT, and that is huge for them because they were anti AI, you know, yesterday. So making sure that you're recognizing, celebrating every stage of the adoption process, that we are celebrating those who are diving in wholeheartedly, but also hesitantly, and finding ways to celebrate and elevate both of those levels. So I wanted to ask you next, what does AI advocacy look like to you? So those are 5 different kind of ideas and strategies for how you could advocate for AI. But what have you done? What does AI advocacy mean and look like to you? Please share in the chat. We would love to hear from you.
I would love to suggest, Brittany, that one of the ways is by being showcased and sharing your application and use of AI in your own space. So we would love to have you showcased or featured in one of our future workshops or blogs or podcasts or whatever that might be. So there's the link that's in the chat there for you to be able to follow and be a part of some of our future work here at the Friday Institute, and be an advocate for what's happening with AI.
So next, we're going to kind of be digging into Champion the Way. And first, we're going to hear from some excellent educators who kind of explore the power of AI, and kind of leave us with some thoughts on how AI can be an incredible tool for educators. While you're listening, I also want to think and have you think about the words that they're using and the way that they word things, because sometimes I don't always use or know what to say or how to advocate for AI, but I think they say it so nicely. So we're going to hear from the wonderful Allison Reed and Jacob French, who explore the power of AI in education.
There are very few things that I've come across in my career that actually give time back to teachers and staff. And this is one of those things. This can cut out those mundane repetitive task and allow teachers the ability to really sit with students one-on-one, to really invest in the human relationships that can never be replaced with technology. It allows us to offload those tasks to the machine learning, right? So that we can do the human part that is our art and is our gift. And so I think for teachers, being willing to embrace AI and understand it enough to suspend that disbelief on the promise of relationship. I think that's the biggest thing for teachers.
Together. There's nobody who's significantly ahead of the curve in the adoption process, or knowing how to solve problems, or knowing how to get school boards on board if they're not, or winning families over if they're not won over already. We all have the same problems. We're working through them together because we are all those early adopters we were just talking about. There's just not answers yet, so all we can do is work towards them.
Awesome. I love that transparency from Jacob French there, our director, I believe, of digital learning down in Hoke County, who is really centering kind of where we are. We feel this urge and this overwhelming experience right now with AI coming at us from all directions. But now is the time to think about, how do we get this right? How do we think about our guidelines and guardrails? Where do we go, and how do we develop our own fluency when it comes to AI? Grow our AI literacy and really step into that space. And so we've got the time to do it right. And I would challenge you to think about how you could be a champion for AI fluency. All along the way, we've been talking about in our webinar sessions how you could grow your AI fluency, and would really like you to start shifting that as you have reached the end of our webinar series with us, thinking about how can you be that champion. So how could you be the champion for AI fluency, and to set your own personal and professional goal for those next steps. And if you would be willing, would love to have you post your commitment there on social media. Again, that's AI with the FI. It's a great space to be able to connect and to share and have some accountability for what that might look like. One of the things that I think is important for us to also consider is where we go next from here. I know that DPI has published their guidance for the state around what that can look like, but we also know that other places are also issuing guidance as well. So here's a great example of UNESCO's guidance for generative AI. They've been working in the field of technology and artificial intelligence, and those guidelines and guardrails for quite a while now. And they've got two sections that I'd love to draw your attention to. The first one being, what is generative AI and how does it work? We've explored a lot of that during our webinar series over the last few months, but then also facilitating that creative use of Gen AI in education and research. And what I think is really valuable about exploring this type of a resource is that it gives us a global perspective of where people are and what they're talking about and what that can look like. So if you get a chance to go ahead and dig into some of that type of resource, I think you'll find some great examples. And again, that global perspective is really valuable when you're thinking about your own space, your own policies and practices, guidelines and guardrails that you might be putting in place. We also have some other future engagement opportunities where we would love to see you. So we are working to take these webinars and turn them into an online learning module in our learning platform, The Place. You may have gone there before for other incredible online training. And we are hoping to be able to offer these sessions there. So if you would like to revisit that, or if you have colleagues who would like to attend, but also be able to facilitate some opportunity to earn a certificate for your own submission of an artifact through that type of a course. So we've had some questions about, are you awarding CEUs or certificates for this? This will be the opportunity, and that's coming soon. So once we have this recording and this spring, we'll get that in place for folks to be able to access that. And then we'd love to see you at NC Ties. If you're planning on attending that North Carolina conference, we'll have a workshop, AI in Education, the Landscape in North Carolina, our Educator Insights, that we'll have there on March 7th, there in the afternoon, right after lunch. Have a great lunch in Raleigh and then come back for our workshop. So we hope that we can see you there. And then last but not least, we'd like to round out our session today and our series at large with a feedback survey. So if you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes, I think no more than 2 minutes, to complete this survey for us, it'll give us some good information about what our performance was and how we were able to support you and what you'd like to see next from us. Also, if you'd like to stay in touch with us, we have our email address posted there, AI with the FI at ncsu.edu. Feel free to send us an email that way or to reach out to us directly. Would love to connect with you for the future and what that can look like. We're often out in schools and districts and working with educators across the state. Happy to be able to support you in any of those types of ways as well. We've got some events coming up, but we're also looking towards some opportunities for connecting during some work days and in district PD and school PD over the next 6 months as well. So feel free to reach out to us if you've got any interest or if you'd like to be a part of any of that work. Again, I want to make note that we have an awesome Wakelet repository that we'll post the link to in the chat. If you bookmark anything, you might want to bookmark that Wakelet and add that to your files to be able to access any of these materials and resources. We really appreciate all the work and effort that's gone into designing and developing this series and hope that you found it beneficial to your own practice. We'll have more to come from the Friday Institute as we move into the spring and into the summer and next school year. So we'll hope that you'll be a part of our learning community as well. So really appreciate the time and effort that you've put into joining us over this session and all of our sessions. We are excited about what's to come and really, really thankful for the opportunity to work with you and with our emerging technologies, with AI and having that positive impact on students and their engagement and their learning as well. So I want to give a last shout out to this fabulous team that I've had a chance to work with, Brittany, Jackie, and Kim, who are on the call today, but also Russell and Amy, who've been a part of this. They have been a phenomenal group to put this all together, and I couldn't have done it without them. So kudos to you and all of your work. Really appreciate everything you've done to put this together and host this for our school community, educator community in North Carolina and beyond. So thanks so much, all. We're going to stick around for a couple of minutes. If you would like to contribute more questions, we would be happy to answer them for you. But otherwise, we will see you in the near future. Thanks again.